Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to Greening of Streaming's 2025 webinar. Um, well, thank you for being here. And those of you who were busy for 5 hours yesterday at the MTSS event, you'll know that a lot's happening in this industry, and we are sort of building a community. We have been over the last few years, and yesterday's event showed that that's actually really happening. So don't hesitate to drop any messages in the chat right up front of the call now. If you let us know what you're interested, why you're here, what you expect to get out of today's call, that would be really cool. That will help our speakers adjust to your needs and your requests. And in a few minutes, I'm going to hand over to our first speaker. I'll just remind you of today's exciting agenda. We'll be starting off with a keynote from Barbara Lange, who many of you will know from Greening of Streaming. Actually, I'm the only one in the program that has the word Greening of Streaming as my affiliation, but all your speakers today are affiliated with Greening of Streaming. And when I make my presentation towards the end, I will tell people who does what in Greening of Streaming. But we'll start with Barbara's personal journey. She's dedicated herself to sustainability and media tech for the last 4 years. And so I asked her to start with a blank page and say to us, hey, what have I done over the last 4 years? What have I learned? Where do I think the industry is? And that's the question she'll be addressing. She'll be followed by Mike Matera from Akamai, who will give us an update on his leading CDN providers' clean energy initiatives. I'm greatly looking forward to that because I don't know them yet. And if the audience doesn't have questions for Mike, I will. He will be followed by Hemini Mehta from the EBU, who will take the the broadcaster lens. The EBU is the European Broadcasting Union with several hundred members, and so she will be talking on their behalf to give us their perspective on sustainability in general and drilling down towards the end of her presentation on what it actually means for streaming. And we'll have a slightly more techie talk, but Dom will be there, so make sure that, well, actually, no, it'd be difficult to make sure he doesn't go too deep tech. He will be accompanied by another deep tech person in the name of Ian Nock, and they'll have a little fireside chat about our latest publication, which came out just a few weeks ago on power factor, and that's a very unknown and complicated topic, and I hope at the end of that talk you'll understand a bit more about that. Then I'll come back on for a quick community update, let you know what's been going on with Greening of Streaming over the last year. I'm honored to have taken over the running of Greening of Streaming from Dom Robinson, our founder, but as if you've been following, he'll have spoken just before then. And the last half hour or so, we plan to just keep an open mic and let everybody turn their cameras on, and we can talk. And so just before I hand over to my first speaker, just to let you know, for Q&A, the Q&A is open now. So don't hesitate in the chat or the Q&A to let us know what you're interested in today. And if you have questions for the speakers, we'll put them into two groups. If it's a question that's something that you don't understand or very specific to what a speaker is talking about, we'll address that in each session. And if it's a more general question that open to debate, we'll keep those questions for the final session. And I'll just check if I'm doing right on time. I'm just right on time, so I'm going to call up Barbara. If Barbara, you could fire up your camera, and I will hand the floor to you.
Would help. Well, thank you, Ben, and the planning team for putting me forward to talk about my journey. I'm really delighted. It was fun to do the presentation because it's a personal story. So I hope you enjoy it, and it's not heavy thinking, but just somebody's story. So here we go. So firstly, My story starts with my parents and my brothers immigrating to the United States from Germany in 1964. I was born in New York. That picture on the left is my baptism day. I used to always joke that I'm the only American in the family and I could be president one day. Um, but after moving from a few times from New York to New Jersey to West Virginia, we settled on a farm in southwestern Pennsylvania where we were fully engaged as gentlemen farmers. For those of you who are familiar in the United States, a program called 4-H, which is all about basically farm husbandry to teach kids. It was a big part of my life, and I was a big sheep person. It was an enjoyable time. And from there, I, became a big knitter. So there's a picture of me with one of my knit projects. I also then went to university. I double majored in chemistry and German, and went on to my work career. I'm also a big fan of cycling. For those of you who, I'm not a crazy cyclist, but I do like to ride. And here, my husband and I, with our family, finished a ride from Washington D.C. to Pittsburgh in 2019, which was great fun. So, it's a little bit about my hobbies. I come from a line of coal mining engineers. My family's livelihood, and of course mine growing up, was fueled by or made possible by the fossil fuel economy. My father was a mining engineer. Both my brothers became mining engineers. So I really understood the value of energy before I even understood the word sustainability. This little town of Marianna there on the left, Pennsylvania. It's a model place. It was one of the first company towns where the workers received a home. And very interestingly, in Marianna, the homes were built in yellow brick, very unusual, not red brick, but yellow. All the homes are the same, and they're all yellow brick. And the companies paid in company money, and you went to the company store, and you were really owned by the company. The mine suffered some serious accidents, which was not an unusual situation in coal mining to this day even. There was a major explosion that killed 154 people in 1906 that established the mine safety department in the U.S. government. And then there was a fire in 1988 that closed the mine for good. It's a tough and dangerous business, mining, but so crucially important to the development of the economies in the United States and around the world. Today, of course, Pennsylvania is one of the leaders in the modern world around data centers. And in fact, many old nuclear sites, including 3 Mile Island, are being resurrected to serve this new technology that we find ourselves in. And so, here's an example of the old and the new, all in one place. So with that background, I studied my degree in chemistry. So, originally I thought I was going to be a doctor, but that went out the window for a variety of reasons. I was also going to go to grad school and be a biomedical engineer, and put my grad school on hold for a year. And, 40 years later, I've never gone back. But that's okay. I think my life journey was still fine. I started working for Schwarz, a German-owned chemical company. We made surfactants, for those of you who are familiar, soaps, for the consumer product and personal care markets. Fun fact, the same raw materials that go into your hair shampoo, go into your laundry detergent, can also be used in asphalt on the roads. It's slippery soap. It has variety of applications. And we actually used beef tallow as our raw material. So we had 2 facilities, one in Wisconsin, one in Illinois, that basically recycled, if you want to call it that, beef tallow. And that was the raw material for our chemicals that we used for the soaps. And, at that point, I even sort of had a view of circularity and resource reuse, and, I didn't even know that had anything to do with, and it didn't really at the time have anything to do with true sustainability. But, I could look back on it now and sort of imagine that. I then moved on from Sheerex because I became part of the downturn in the late 80s, early 90s. Economic downturn, Sheerex folded, and I went on to move into the academic publishing space. Kind of a big transition, of course, but I was working in chemistry. I was working in chemistry databases. I was calling on pharmaceutical companies, chemical companies, all to present to them various chemistry databases. So I entered a whole new line of work in the academic publishing space, and a whole new industry. I was learning how to sell product, in this case, intellectual product, right? Chemistry database access. And back then, databases, this is dial-up. This is, I remember going to conferences where we would present our things, in a booth, and we'd have to jerry-rig the computer that we rented so that it could accommodate the extensive systems that we were trying to sell. So we'd come with a screwdriver, if they only knew. And then I was recruited. After a few years, I was recruited to join the IEEE. I'd sort of established myself as a publisher person. Left my time in chemistry. I really departed from chemistry back then in the mid-90s and really threw myself into the publishing world. Again, navigating new territory. I was part of this revolution of moving content from print to electronic forms, was part of IEEE's development of its digital library, which today is a major revenue contributor that helps the organization do all of its really good work. And along the way, I wasn't thinking any bit about climate change or carbon footprints. I was learning really about systems and how making any one change here could influence something over there. And that's really important when you think about this holistic view of sustainability. So maybe in a way, I was thinking of my future without really knowing it. So along the way, I landed at SMPTE. My journey brought me to the media technology industry. I was with SMPTE as executive director for 12 years and helped lead the organization through some massive digital transformation. Again, I came into this role completely with zero experience. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know anything about the technology. I didn't know any people. I had no Rolodex of special people. I had zero network. And so, and I also was never the top leader. So it was the first time where I took on the helm and was the buck stops with you. And so all things roll down to the executive director. But it was an amazing experience. And I actually look back and think, wow, the board put such a trust in me to lead SMPTE during this time. And so I had to set about learning, and it was never ending. It was, I landed at an organization that was 95 years old, so it was on the cusp of a centennial, was growing. The industry was changing dramatically. This is in 2010 when I started. We, had to sort of develop new revenue streams. We grew our membership. We, of course, celebrated our 100 years, and we did a whole new fundraising exercise in the process. We even merged and then unmerged with our friends at the HPA. So we learned a little bit about, culture and, how you think on the outside. Oh, yeah, we'll be great partners together. And then, kind of culture clashing got in the way. And, there are loads of books written about that sort of thing. But, it was all good. I had the pleasure of going around the world with SMPTE, doing amazing things, meeting amazing people. One of the highlights was the being able to broadcast from the International Space Station to the SMPTE conference. What a thrilling experience. And of course, I had such an amazing team of colleagues that I I couldn't have done anything without them. They were just spectacular. And full disclosure, two people were not able to attend our final Christmas lunch. This was right at the period of COVID, but Joel Welch and Julie Ellsbury were not able to join us, but they were definitely part of the team too. So, it was a great time. But all good things too must come to an end. And I knew that, I wanted to change again. Like many, the pandemic gave me pause to rethink, and I wanted to sort of take a look and see what I've learned, and also to test myself and see what I can do, in a new purpose and in a new way, and to work for myself, really wanted to try to do that. So with a lot of planning, advanced planning, I did set out to think about what that would be. I was not camping at that moment, but I wanted to share this photo with you because it's the origin story of Kaiba 121. That is a tent that I was in. And that is the foothills of Mount Kilimanjaro. And if any of you are familiar, Mount Kilimanjaro is an active volcano. It hasn't erupted in many, many years, though. But there are, I think, 3 craters that are on the top there. Eventually, we did succeed in summiting. In fact, we stayed one night in the crater, which was an amazing experience. But Kaibo is the name of one of the craters, and 121 is January 21st, the day that we summited. So that's our little origin story for my husband and me. So I took the leap. I left Cinti. I started my own consultancy, Kaiba 121. And to be fair, at first I wasn't sure, where it would take me. I wasn't quite sure, what exactly I was going to do with this idea of sustainability. But I knew that there was a conversation that was missing. And so part of my entrepreneurial curiosity and my evolution, I decided to choose sustainability as my path forward. So I did. I do what you all do, is you create a website. And but to be fair, I really, again, landed in a new space. I didn't know much about sustainability. In fact, one of the first things I did was conducted a number of interviews with people. First, they were friends of mine from the industry, from the media tech industry, explaining to them what I was planning to do and what did they think. And those conversations were really interesting because a lot of people didn't have any real notion of it. So most of them were supportive, of course, but didn't really know how to answer it for me. But in some cases, those connections gave me other connections. And those people were one step closer to the concepts of sustainability. So I conducted a bunch of interviews. I remember one of my interviews was with a gal from Canada. And she talked about the UN SDGs, and I'm like, what? I have no idea what that means. And if you're in sustainability and you don't know anything about the SDGs, then you maybe need to go learn. And I did. So, I'm wearing the UN pin now. That's my reminder. Never forget the UN SDGs, Sustainability Development Goals, for those of you who may not be fully aware. But I really had to learn a lot. I had to understand what does our industry do as it pertains to sustainability. We know that streaming or production, the whole process, not just streaming, but broadcasting, the whole piece of it consumes a tremendous amount of energy. Live production has travel and shipping costs, and manufacturers are dealing with supply chains. And so there certainly are areas of improvement. And, we also have a very unique position in the media sector because we tell stories. We have to move fast and adapt. We're also a global industry. So can't we be leaders in sustainability? So I put up my website. I started doing some blogging. I got invitations to do things. I was really surprised, to be honest. but I got involved with a number of different organizations. I judged the first of which probably was the NAB judging the Excellence in Sustainability Awards. I co-founded with my great friend Lisa Collins the Media Tech Sustainability Series. I then had lunch with Peggy Daw, and she introduced me to the great Dom Robinson. And suddenly I'm part of Greening of Streaming, which has been amazing. And along the way, I've had a few other projects and engagements. These are a few of them. And it's just been an amazing journey since I started. By the way, I started in January 2022. The other thing I did is I joined an association. I'm a fan of associations. I've spent most of my career working in nonprofit associations. I think professional associations add such great value just to learn, network, be aware of the issues. And so I joined the International Society of Sustainability Professionals. And most recently, in April, I passed the test and I'm now certified as a, what they call Sustainability Excellence Associate. And my next step will be to take the next test, which will be then certified for Sustainability Excellence Professional. So generic sustainability, not specific to our industry. So yeah, so it's a lot of learnings, a lot of webinars, many webinars. A couple of things that, you know, I probably don't have to tell anyone here, but it's sort of the time I think is right. We're living in this world of a zettabyte era, you know, where we have so much content being created. Even this Zoom meeting is creating content, and it's you know, we don't even have enough data centers or storage, I should say, to store all that data. So that's a problem. And then, you know, this transition to digital and streaming has really transformed not how consumers work, but all the equipment that we buy, the screens, the LEDs that we have, just the process, everything has really transformed, and it's consuming energy. And one of my issues, I think, is that because this is streaming is an abstract, or even broadcast is an abstract, people don't touch that movie, they don't touch that television program. It's all on the internet. I think they have a feeling that it's either somebody else's problem, or because it's in the cloud, I must not be consuming much energy at all. And of course, part of what we're trying to do with organizations like Greening of Streaming is really to understand the true cost, energy cost of these activities, so that we can be better informed, not only for consumers, but also for policymakers. So I'm really excited about the work that Greening of Streaming is doing, and things like today, these sessions that we have will help inform us. And even just this morning, I grabbed this from the New York Times that officially, according to the New York Times, streaming is now the king of TV. So in May, more Americans watch television on streaming services than on cable and network television combined. So it's the first time that's happened over a full month, according to the Times. You know, we knew we were headed in this direction, and now we've arrived. And so the challenge is, of course, on all of us, is to navigate these new times and to really, I think, timing-wise, build in sustainability more and more into our future activities. And so, you know, where do we go from here? And my focus is really to helping the industry turn intent into action. I think, you know, sustainability isn't just somebody's job. It's really a mindset. It belongs in every role within an organization. It needs to become the DNA of the organization and not a sidebar add-on. And when you do that, you will see success for sure. And nobody can do this alone. We need to work together. There's so much new information, new concepts, new data points that sustainability is a domain that we all need to collaborate on and to succeed together. Yes, it can be a market differentiator for those who really need an ROI, but I think it is not something that we can do alone. And so being together in a community like Greening of Streaming and others, it really does help us elevate all together. And the other piece is you've got to start somewhere. You've got to do something. Don't wait for the perfect. Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. We have to meet people where they are. Not everyone is ready to overhaul. They can't afford it, perhaps. They don't have all the information. But we should be willing to take that first step, whatever it is, even if it's changing your catering to more sustainable friendly options, reduce your lighting, update your heating, and just your policies is a good way to start, and energize your employees to help make these small changes that eventually lead to integrating sustainability as part of that mindset. So whether it's through groups like Greening of Streaming or the MTSS or other industry efforts, collaborative education, standards alignment, supply chain engagement, I definitely have found my place and find that I want to make sustainability actionable. There's so much amazing technology and innovation and people who are eager to do the same and to collaborate and work together on. And so I want to close with a takeaway. You don't have to start with all the answers. You just have to start with the right questions. I didn't set out to be a sustainability advocate. Like many, perhaps my journey has been a bit of a winding road. But I stepped onto this pathway and realized it's really where I belong, and I feel like I'm want to make the decision. This statement, enough for all, forever, is something that came up during our MTSS conference yesterday. I thought it was so powerful, and I'm going to adopt it from our keynote speaker, Bob Willard, because to me it says it all. Enough for all, forever. So with that, I thank you so much for listening to my story. Thanks for being a part of my journey and helping us to make the media sector greener, smarter, and more sustainable for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. I feel privileged to have had that little window into who you are and where you come from. I was quite enthralled listening to you, and I have some follow-up questions, but we'll keep them for the discussion. So I now have some ammunition. So do stay right to the end, because I have a question for you, and some questions are starting coming in from the audience, but they weren't specific to what you're saying. So we'll address those moving forward.